These businesses have worked hard to keep themselves at the top of their game, but not every business decision is a good one, as you'll be learning very soon. All of these mistakes have cost companies millions of dollars, and as a result, their reputations have been struggling to stay above water. Make sure to stick around until the end to hear about the CEO who lost his company $650 million worth of shares in a matter of days. Before we show you some of the worst ways that businesses have slipped up, make sure to like this video, subscribe to TheRichest, and join our notification squad. Let's get into 10 companies who made one huge mistake which infuriated everyone. It's common knowledge that Coca-Cola is made of a secret formula that only a handful of carefully selected people know about. Even some of the company's most prestigious employees aren't allowed to know the recipe that makes the iconic fizzy drink. And it's all for good reason. The recipe is hidden so that no company can steal it and recreate the drink to affect Coca-Cola's popularity. They've done a good job of fending off the competition over the last 100 years, but they almost shot themselves in the foot by changing the recipe themselves. Coca-Cola announced on April 23, 1985, that it would discontinue its beloved Coca-Cola in favor of a new product that millions of people called New Coke. This new Coke was thought to be significantly cheaper to produce, making profits for the brand reach the sky. However, those missing ingredients turned out to be the key ones, and the world was not happy. In fact, New Coke was a disaster. Protests started, letters were written, and the people spoke up. Sales dropped by 20%, and only a few months later, in August, Original Coke was brought back. It's important to remember that while people could kick up a fuss about Coca-Cola, no one was forcing them to buy New Coke. If they wanted, they could simply purchase another soft drink. When Uber first came to capital city London a few years back, the traditional black cabs weren't pleased. They claimed that Transport for London, the body in charge of regulating Uber and other similar services, was not doing enough to ensure public safety in London taxis. So, black cab drivers decided to stage a protest outside the TfL headquarters in Westminster in 2014. But the protest backfired. The black cabs took over the roads, leading to a shortage of traditional taxis available for customers and a huge traffic jam. As a result, locals got angry and reached straight for their phones to order an Uber instead. Downloads of Uber soared by 850% after the demonstration, causing more people to order their rides in the way that the black cabs have been so heavily protesting against. Now let's talk about one company's mistake that you're probably all aware of: Instagram's chronological post update. Originally launched back in March 2016, Instagram's new algorithm was announced to supposedly ensure that users would see the moments you care about first. However, by showing what seemed to be a random selection of posts at the top, instead of a nice, simple chronological order that everyone had been so happy with in the first place, people ended up missing a lot of posts. Instagram claimed that a study conducted by themselves had found that, on average, users missed about 70% of posts in their feed before the algorithm's launch. But bloggers, influencers, and small businesses all suffered when their posts stopped being so visible to their audience. Hundreds of articles sprung up explaining the best way to beat Instagram's algorithm, and things like pods were created, allowing people to get into virtual groups and bring up each other's posts with likes and comments. No matter how many times Instagram has added updates since, they're determined to keep chronological order off the table. Admittedly, this next company slip-up was the fault of one individual rather than the business as a whole. Swiss global financial company UBS Warburg infuriated people across the globe when it accidentally sold shares for far less than they were supposed to be sold for. And when we say that they were undersold, we mean by millions and millions of dollars. The mistake was the fault of one Tokyo-based stock trader who filed an incorrect order by accident and sold 610,000 shares at 6 yen rather than 6 shares at 610,000 yen. The mistake cost his employers, UBS Warburg, almost $93 million. The shares were in a company called Dentsu, a Japanese advertising agency. Apparently, as soon as the trader realized what he'd done, he resigned from his role. But we're not sure that that was enough for the company, who had to take matters into their own hands and try and reclaim some of their lost stocks. It was a move that had the power to impact thousands of people on the stock market. If you're a fan of Disney, then you'll probably enjoy watching all of their live-action remakes of the classic films. Most of them have found widespread success, with realistic characters bringing some of our favorite animated creatures to real life like never before. But one remake has caused frustration and anger because of the way it's being portrayed. One of Disney's 2019 live-action remakes is Aladdin, which is set to feature Will Smith as the genie. The trailer of the remade movie became a thing of memes, with people laughing at the first appearance of Will in his new role. In it, he has blue skin, which many people started to make a joke out of and question the appropriateness of. This casting has arguably even overshadowed the existence of the remake itself. While some of these issues might have been mistakes, others can be attributed to a case of bad customer service. And that's exactly what happened when United Airlines allegedly refused to help a customer whose guitar they'd broken on a flight. Singer-songwriter Dave Carroll was flying from Halifax, Nova Scotia to Omaha, Nebraska, when he noticed out of the window that his luggage was being thrown around. He discovered that his $3,500 Taylor guitar's neck had been broken, and he spent 9 months trying to speak to United for some compensation, but it never came. So Dave took the matter into his own hands. He wrote a song, using a new guitar presumably, called United Breaks Guitars, which immediately went viral on YouTube. After 150,000 views, United contacted Dave and offered payment to make the video go away, and Dave reacted by making a trilogy of the song. Then, spin-off versions and reaction videos started to be uploaded too. The BBC reported that United's stock price dropped 10% within 3 to 4 weeks of the release of the video. This was a decrease in valuation of around $180 million. Let's talk about a company whose mistake was not only rectifying the initial problem, but also how they reacted to it afterwards. You'll probably remember the Deepwater Horizon oil spill, which occurred back in April 2010. This industrial disaster, otherwise known as the BP oil spill, was thought to be the largest marine oil spill in the history of the petroleum industry. 94,000 barrels of oil spilled into the Gulf of Mexico, and 154 sea turtles, 12 dolphins, and 23 seabirds were fatally injured. The damage was horrendous, and long-term problems stemming from the spill are still unknown. But none of this was helped by BP's chief, Tony Hayward, who played down the issue entirely. He told the Associated Foreign Press that everything we can see at the moment suggests that the overall environmental impact will be very, very modest. Then he told The Guardian that the oil spill was relatively tiny. Eventually, he followed up by saying that he wanted his life back because the spill had taken up a lot of his time. As we're sure you can imagine, the worldwide opinion of BP as a company shot down instantly. Abercrombie Fitch CEO Mike Jeffries made the same mistake of revealing his personal thoughts, which he really should have kept to himself. If you've shopped at Abercrombie Fitch in the past, you might have noticed that they only sell up to a woman's size large. Famously, Mike said to Salon in 2006, "That's why we hire good-looking people in our stores. We want to market to cool, good-looking people. We don't market to anyone other than that. A lot of people don't belong in our clothes, and they can't belong. Are we exclusionary? Absolutely." Not many CEOs would have the confidence to speak as candidly about their audience like that, and Mike's words had a negative impact on the company as a whole. Mike lasted in the role until 2014 when he retired. Coincidentally, sales had continued to drop over the last few years of his reign, and Abercrombie's reputation remains tarnished as a result. Abercrombie gained a negative reputation because of its CEO, but our next company suffered a far more widespread failure because of its users. Secret, an app similar to Curious Cat, where users can ask anonymous questions to each other, was first piped to be a huge success. It raised millions in investments and quickly gained popularity, but the problem with Secret was that there was no one to monitor the questions being asked, which quickly changed from innocent to unnecessary. And while some people used the app to get a load off their chest, others had bad intentions in their mind, and so this no-holds-barred environment quickly began to anger its users, who found themselves the target of online abuse and negativity. Had there been someone to monitor the questions being asked, this might not have happened, or it might not have happened to such a huge extent. But unfortunately, the anonymous nature of the app was actually its downfall as well as its unique selling point. Once users had been disillusioned, there was no going back, and eventually the app failed entirely. Last, but in no way least, we'll tell you about something called the Ratner Fact. That's right, Our last business blunder was so high profile that it actually got given its own name. Gerald Ratner was the owner of a multi-million-dollar jewelry business that sold affordable products to the working class. His pieces weren't expensive, and there seemed to be a Ratner store down almost every British high street in the late 1980s. Life was good for Gerald. He had enough money to splash out on whatever he wanted, and he was living a life of luxury, until he decided to insult every single person who'd ever purchased some Ratner's jewelry in one fell swoop. On April 23, 1991, Gerald was speaking at an Institute of Directors and was asked a question on how he managed to sell his products for such a low price. Instead of mentioning mass production or any other typical business terminology, Gerald said that everything he sold was not of high quality. He continued by saying that the company had sold a pair of earrings for under £1, which is cheaper than a shrimp sandwich from Marks & Spencer, but probably wouldn't last as long. Predictably, the company's shares dropped $650 million in a matter of days. That's all for 10 companies who made one huge mistake which infuriated everyone. Can you think of any other business blunders that should have made this list? Let us know in the comments below. Thanks for watching.